Friends, if I could have your attention one more time. We're about to begin the service for Mrs. Berta Fine of blessed memory. If I could ask all the family and friends gathered here to join us under the canopy. I'm going to call a list of pallbearers. If I could have everybody who's listed as a pallbearer join me at the back of the hearse, please. Dove, Aryeh, David, Ari, Ben, Jeff, Rabbi Engel, Rabbi Hodi, and Rafi. If everybody I just mentioned could come join us at the back to help escort the casket. The hearse is just behind me. On behalf of the family, I want to thank everybody for joining us in person, and obviously those who couldn't make it, who are watching on the live stream, thank you so much.
Oh, that's right, yes.
If you're not a media family, you could come. If you feel you'd like to walk down to the casket, you can do so. Hey there. Stop. Go ahead. Stop. Casket on the boards or whatever. Yes. Be careful when you stand here. Yeah, I see there's a dip. Yeah. Yeah, I'm okay. It's a little dippy. Going to say a short bracha for people who have not been in a cemetery for 30 days. Say amen as I go after the bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher yatzar etchem b'din v'zan v'chilkel etchem b'din v'hemit etchem b'din v'yodea mispar kolchem b'din v'hu atid l'hachayotchem u'lekayem etchem b'din
Baruch atah Adonai mechayei hametim. Atah gibor l'olam Adonai mechayei hametim. Atah rav lehoshia mechal kol chaim b'chesed mechayei hametim b'rachamim rabim. Samech noflim v'rofei cholim matir asurim umkayem emunato l'shenei afor. Michamocha balro to Michaelach melech meimit umachaya umatzmiach Yeshua v'neman atah lahachayot metim. Welcome to you all for coming. And I'm sure I'm saying this on behalf of half of you, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Please note that Mrs. Fine will be buried next to her husband, Irving Fine, Zichrono Livracha. And I think this would be a good time to do Kriya for those who have not done it yet. So, Yael, where are you? Because it's hard to see into the sun. So, this is, you've told everybody what to do? Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody say the bracha.
Yes.
Okay. We're now going to do Mizmor LeDavid, Tehillim Chaf Gimel. It's also on the card that the funeral home has passed out, so you can follow along, but I'm going to ask Livia and David and Shlomit to come up and lead in doing it. I have a copy here too.
You guys are reading Hebrew, I'm reading English.
מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לא אחסר. מינות זה אשר ביצעני על מי מנוחות ינערני. נפשי שובב ינחני במעגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות לא ירא רע כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי. וישנת בשמן ראשי כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי. ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in the green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will feel no evil. Thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Okay. Gosh, I really wish I could see you all better, but I'm blinded by the sun. And talk a minute about the context here, the space, the area you're in. This is, if you look around, you will see not just the grave of Irving Fine, you will see the graves of the larger family. If afterwards you look at the gravestones, names like Wolf and Farkas, they are all part of the family. And so here it's almost like we are in the circle of the family, very close into the circle of the family, and this idea of having a family, a mishpacha at this time, is an important thing, not just for this family, but for all of Klal Yisrael. This is a tough time for the immediate family and for the general family. And I know that if you consider this and consider your own families too, this is a very powerful moment. We're going to continue on here and have a few short hespedim from the sisters, and right after that we'll do Kel Malei Rachamim. So if whoever wants to speak, please come up.
See what you mean about the sun. What? No, I think it's okay. The sun is warm too, so it'll be okay. Our mom's life has been 98 years long and full of ups and downs and challenges and successes, great joy and deep sadness. Thinking over what I know of that long life, longer than she could ever have than she ever imagined for herself, I want to share some aspects that touch me deeply. Berta Fine, Bachelea Bat Chaim Tzvi V'Shena Liba, yeah, that's my name, was born on January 1st, 1927 in Chile. She was born at home, and the birth was recorded in a large ledger, which you can still find in Mulchen. Her mother was an invalid for most of the life Mom remembered, and Mom was raised by her several aunts, all on her mother's side of the family, and her much adored father. Orphaned of her mother at 9, her father lighted her life, introducing her to a joy of dancing that lasted her entire life and a knowledge of her third language, English, which he recognized as a lingua franca of the future. Can you picture her during her Chilean childhood as I do, standing under a door frame, the safest place during common Chilean earthquakes, or waiting before central heat while her sheets were warmed with coals before she climbed into bed at night? When she was 12, Mom traveled with her father through the Panama Canal and then by train from Miami to Chicago to the home of her father's brother, Uncle Dave. He's buried here. Uncle Dave had insisted they come, seeking a more benign diagnosis or at least promising treatment after her father's diagnosis with Hodgkin's disease. Chilean diagnosis confirmed by Mayo Clinic doctors. Mom was bereft of her father before the year was out. Now in the United States and being cared for by her father's side of the family, she was an enthusiastic basketball player at Chicago's South Shore High School, earned pocket money helping with bookkeeping at a local butcher shop, and eagerly went to the movies, regularly and probably eagerly too, went to the movies. This was a challenging, lonely time, living in a place and with people she hardly knew, with a Jewish ritual life much different from what we might today call the cultural Judaism of her family in Chile. Can you hear her petitioning her uncle to be allowed to sit for a scholarship exam for college, even though it was on Shabbat? So important, had her father taught her, was education. Maybe it sounded a lot like her petition for him to teach her to drive. Uncle, you don't need to learn to drive. You don't have a car, and I'm not going to let you use mine. Mom, I haven't asked you to drive your car. I've asked you to teach me to drive. Let me worry about the car. He did let her sit for the exam, and he did teach her to drive. As she said, he let me get into the driver's seat, exited the car, and told me not to damage it. By 19, she was married. She was fixed up numerous times, but waited for a man who wanted a true partner in life, for whom she could see her love growing and growing. She nixed the suitor who told her he wanted to marry her like he liked fine wine. No one's accoutrements was she going to be. My parents were each other's best cheerleaders. For example, he encouraged her to join an investment club, and she encouraged him to join the bowling league. They each felt they had gotten the best of the marriage deal. My father's death in 1967, yes, Mom was only 40, was devastating to her. He's also buried here. And she fiercely reminded people who praised her achievements, especially the raising of her 4 daughters, that she had had a partner, a necessary ingredient in any of her success. Raising children. You'll be hearing more from those kids and their kids, but a word about my birth. Picture this. You cleaned the whole house for Pesach, including wiping the top of each lintel, which Uncle Dave told her she didn't have to do. There was definitely no hummus up there. But she was even 9 months pregnant, cleaning away. And then, and only then, do you go into labor. Just how do you think I know this fact, that she spent all of that Pesach in the hospital? Mom was an only child and wanted her kids to have sibs. Thank you, Mom. Education was the priority, especially the Jewish education that both of our parents felt was missing in their lives. So they sent us each to Jewish day schools, new as they were at that time. Thank you, Mom. As we grew, 4 daughters, Mom embraced the developing opportunities for women. She applauded all of our Jewish learning and doing, so proud and happy for us, finding an ever wider variety of ways to express our spiritual selves and serve our communities. She even herself left her comfort zone to address a women's tefillah group, once that I recall. Mom encouraged us each to find our own pathways, including moving to places far from her, even if at times she sighed, noticing that many of her friends' kids stayed or moved back to Chicago. She made a full life for herself, moving to Florida when, as she put it, she could move under her own steam to a place close to at least one of her daughters, and where she anticipated there would be others in her stage of life with whom to make friends and build community. A full life, traveling to see the world and visit children and later grandchildren and great-grandchildren, volunteering in many ways, often using her Spanish to build trust and rapport, creating beautiful works of art, many of which are in our houses as in hers, talking to her plants, listening deeply to friends, learning Hebrew. The list goes on and on. And so, her life of 98 years has been lived. A life of learning, acting, nurturing, a sacred life filled with generosity and love. Mom, rest easy now and in peace, knowing that your values are sown deep within us. We will not forget. We will teach your future generations. And you will now be able to visit us all, each and every one of us, all at the same time. We love you always.
Hi, Mama. Here we are in Chicago, all together. Start again. Thank you. I was just saying hello, and that we're all with her together here in Chicago, place where we were all born. It's been such a huge bracha, and to have the zchut to be so close to you, Mom, for so many years, close not only in proximity, but also in so many other ways. All the Shabbos and Yontif meals together, davening in shuls, with you sitting right by my side. All the celebrations that we attended, community celebrations, smachot, things that weren't so happy. We traveled together. You watched my children grow up. And I know that that was a bracha for you too, and for all my kids. So important. All the times that we sat together and talked about so many things, important things, world events, what you used to call Narishkeit, which was, to me, really, really important, probably most important, just looking into your eyes, being able to be so close to you. And because of all that time that we spent together talking, my words here will be shorter. I will miss you. I'll miss all those things. I will miss you so, so very much. But as you told me just a few weeks ago, when we talked about missing people, and you said, you thought for a minute, and then you said, people miss people, but that's okay. And it is okay. It will be okay. I love you, Mama, and I will love you always.
I get to talk here because I got to go back to my hubby, like you always said. I feel blessed to get to talk to you one last time. Sharon, that was beautiful. the story of her life. It's true. I got to know Bubbie as a granddaughter, which is very different from the experiences her daughters have had. Bubbie was a lot more experienced by the time I came around, and so she taught me everything. She taught me how to sew, how to crochet, how to cook, how to let the small things go, how to value family. She taught me that to have children because she was a single child and she loved having so many people around her all the time. I've never heard of a funeral with all the grandchildren present. I know we're missing one. I know he's gonna be here soon. It was a circumstance, those airlines. I think it's miraculous. We all came here to see you, and we'll always be here with you. And now we can come visit you and Zadie at the same time.
He wants to say something.
Beaumont loves you also. I mean, your pictures on our walls, the boys always have something to say. They did want to say goodbye to you too. And I think the greatest, Bubbie Bertita, the greatest gift other than your life experiences is the letter that you helped her write for me for my wedding. Who helped her write that letter for me? I don't know if the other grandkids experience this, but whenever you ask Bubbie for advice, she would always say, like, what do I have to say? Do you know? And so for my wedding gift, all I wanted was her advice on paper. Did you help her write that with me? Yeah, I think you did. I think you helped her write me a letter giving me advice on how to have a strong and healthy marriage. And I have her words, and it's on my wall in a frame, and I read it all the time. And it's you give us the gift forward. No matter where you are, it doesn't matter. I know. All right, I'll end. I love you so much, and I'm so happy I got the opportunity to say something to you before I go back to my hubby and the other Kinderlech. And I love you so much forever. Okay, that's it.
I don't know. I probably won't be able to find this. Okay, got it. All right. This year, since Simchat Torah, this past Simchat Torah for the past few months, since Parshat Breshit, I've been recording some of my personal reflections each week on Parshat HaShavua. And a couple of weeks ago, Parshat Yitro, sorry, I was pondering the Ten Commandments, and particularly the mitzvah of Kibud Av Ve'em. Mom was suffering already a lot, and I was wondering how to observe Kibud. Was I doing it right? Staying away? Like, should I come? Should I not come? Tried to talk to her. Could she hear me? Did she know I was thinking of her? And then I thought about her relationship with her parents. Mom, I don't remember ever you talking about resenting the attention your father gave to your mother. Some months ago, you shared a memory of a severe earthquake in Chile. You were home, and you told me that your father took your mother, who was very ill, frail and chronically ill, he took her outside to safety. And you were upstairs with your nanny, and you heard your father yelling, "Bertita, Bertita." But you told me he couldn't leave my mother. She was so ill. So I came downstairs with my nanny. And then she remembered her dad hugging her, so relieved. Now I feel a bit angry at my Zadie. Why didn't you go back? Why didn't you go back for my mom? How could you not go back to get her? And Mom, I'm wondering how you felt as that little girl who had to grow up too soon. You suffered so many painful separations and so many disappointments. I thank you, Mom, for the model you were. From you, I learned about all of the dibrot, ben adam lemakom, ben adam lechavero, having faith and respect in spite of all of your hardships. Ima, rest in peace now. Tanuchi b'shalom.
As you've all heard already, my mom was a survivor. These past few weeks have shown just how geared for survival she was, as her body resolutely continued to breathe despite all of their signs of breakdown. The hospice nurses were amazed. "She's a real fighter," they said. You might imagine she was full of grit and determination, and she was in her own ways. It takes grit to navigate losing your parents at a young age, being transplanted into a new country, language, and culture, as we have all heard. And my mom found her way forward, not by pushing ahead with force, but by accommodating to her reality with thoughtfulness and intention, without ever losing her way on the path that she chose. And this is a very admirable kind of grit and determination. My mom had many intense losses, her parents, her Uncle Dave, her very beloved husband, my dad. Mom did not turn inwards in self-pity, nor did she become bitter or acerbic. I can't say she didn't have moments of anger and rage at the universe. And I would say that overall Mom used a sort of go along to get along approach, but very wisely and to her benefit, and to express her values and to build a good life. She never lost sight of what mattered to her most, the values of family and community. There are really so many wonderful things to say about my mom. She was open to new experiences, to travel, learning craft activities, taking classes, volunteering. She and I shared most of my high school years living just the two of us in West Rogers Park after moving from the South Side. Those years followed some very tough years, but as always, my mom found a way to get up every hill, to make life work. And they were for us happy, busy years, filled with sharing Shabbat, watching MASH and all of the family together on TV in the den. At our house, there was always room at the table for whoever might drop in, and there was always space for my friends. One of my oldest, dearest friends remembers my mom's chocolate chip blondie bars as the best in the world. When I was younger, Mom enjoyed weekly games of mahjong and later bridge with her lady friends. She liked going out casually, especially if you were going out for a bite or coffee and especially with my Aunt Norma. And at other times, with my dad going for a drive, maybe as a date night, or maybe with all of us girls to Buckingham Fountain in Chicago on a hot Motzei Shabbos summer night, the kind where we would chase the fireflies outside our South Shore home. Everybody has blind spots, but my mom was crystal clear when it came to embracing family with a full and unconditional heart, to being loyal and steady toward those you love. My mom not only taught me and my sisters all this, as we heard from Karina, she brought those values, and we will hear later from her other grandchildren. She brought those values, her understanding of people, her common sense, and her generosity to all of the next generation. My niece wisely noted to me that there is not one grandchild among the dozen cousins who would not have a lot of personal stories and wonderful things to say about their Bubbie. Each relationship was so personal. I watched all 12 grandchildren gathered here to honor their Bubbie, to support their own mothers, and to simply gather together, and I know that Mom is truly shepping nachas. She is here with us all. I asked my own girls to offer me a few words about Bubbie. The quality of being loving was named unanimously. Others were Bubbie was independent, resilient, brave, and strong, present, dependable, and a provider of unconditional love, wise, thoughtful, listening, a lover of laughter, of travel and dancing. She was beautiful inside and out. My mom was and remains my North Star in so many ways. Your openness to me, Mom, and to all the parts of my life has guided and still guides me in staying the course when things get rough. You were a model to me in understanding and embracing both the joys and challenges of life, and this helps me be a better person. What more could one ask of a parent or a mom than to help you be your best self? I miss you, and I love you always. May you find a beautiful peace where you are now. These last few years, my mom was often confused about where home was. In Chile, in Chicago, the South Side, the North Side, Hollywood, Florida. Goodbye, Mommy. I imagine you could tell me now that it feels good to be home.
I just want to mention one thing on behalf of all the friends who were brought into the Fine House and were blessed with one of the best listeners in history. And when you wanted advice, she hesitantly gave it, as was said before, but she was there for you fully. And, I felt, this is the sort of thing you maybe deserve from your parents, but you can't count on from other people. And she had it, she gave it, and it was beautiful. Dov, could you say the Kalmali now?
El Male Rachamim Shochen Bamramim Hamtze Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfe Hashchina B'ma'alot Kedoshim Utehorim Kezohar Harakia Hamazhirim Et Nishmat Bat Yaleya Bat Chaim Tzvi V'Shena Liba Shalcha Leolama Began Eden Tehei Menuchata Lachen Bal Harachamim Yastireha Beseter Knafav Leolamim Bitzror Hachayim Et Nishmata Adonai Hunachalata V'tanuach B'shalom Al Mishkava V'namar Amen.
We're now about to do the burial. I want to remind everybody that you all, if you want, will honor it by taking part in the burial. When the shovel is done, when one person is done, they stick it back into the mound of dirt, and you don't hand it over to the next person. Just the next person comes and picks it up. We'll start by putting a little bit of Adamah from Eretz Yisrael, and then I think family first, but we'll all take part.
Friends, if anybody else wishes to participate, please step forward at this time. We're going to try to do as much as we can by hand.
We're about to do Tzedakah Din. If everybody...
Come a little closer. Fred, you can come a little closer.
Okay. Hatzur tamim poalo, ki chol derachav mishpat, el emuna ve'el ein avel, tzadik v'yasharhu. Hatzur tamim b'chol poal, mi yomar lo ma tifal, hashalit b'mata u'ma'al mimis mechaye morid she'ol v'ya'al. Hatzur tamim b'chol ma'aseh, mi yomar elav ma ta'aseh, ha'omer ve'oseh, chesed chinam lanu ta'aseh, v'bizchus ha'ne'ekad keseh, Hakshiva v'aseh, Tzadik b'chol derachav hatzur tamim, erech hapayim u'malei rachamim, chamal na v'chus na al avos uvanim, ki lecha adon haslichos v'arachamim, Tzadik ata Adonai lahamis u'lechachios, asher biyadcha pikdon kol ruchos, chalila lecha zichronenu limchos, v'yuna einecha v'rachamim aleinu v'chuchos, ki lecha adon harachamim v'haslichos. Adam im ben shana yiyeh o elef shanim yichyeh, ma yisron mo, kelo haya yiyeh. Baruch dayan ha'emes, memis u'mechayeh. Baruch hu ki emes dino, u'mishotet hakol be'eno, u'mishalem le'adam cheshbono v'dino, ve'akol lishmo hodaya yitenu. Yadanu Adonai ki tzedek mishpatecha, titzdak b'davrecha, v'tizke v'shavtecha, ve'en laharher achar midas shavtecha, Tzadikata Adonai v'yashar mishpatecha. Dayan emes, shofet tzedek v'emes, baruch hadayan ha'emes, v'shekol mishpatav tzedek v'emes. Nefesh kol chai b'yadecha, tzedek me'ala yimincha v'yadecha, rachem al pleitason yadecha v'tomar lamalach heref yadecha. Gedol ha'etza v'rav ha'lila, asher einecha v'chuchos, al kol darche b'nei adam, la'ses le'ish kidrachav v'chifri ma'alav. Lahagid ki yashar Adonai tziriv lo avlasabo, Adonai nasan v'Adonai lakach, v'hi shem Adonai mevarach, v'hu rachum yichaper avon v'lo yashchis, v'hirba lehashiv apo v'lo yir kol chamaso.
Okay, we're about to do the special Kaddish that is recited, gravesite. So if, I guess everybody could gather together here. Who's going to say it? You want to do it from there, then say it loud. And are you all ready? We are about to leave the stage of Aninut and enter the stage of Avelut. What we can do now to begin to be Menachem the Avelot is to line up in 2 rows, and we're over there. Okay. Be careful when you get to the end of the row because it's a little muddy out there. But line up in 2 rows, And as they pass, the phrase to say is Hamakom Yenachem Etchem B'toch Shar Avlei Tzion V'Yerushalayim. If you can't remember it all, do the best you can. Etchem B'toch Shar Avlei Tzion V'Yerushalayim.
This is a point that is both hard and easy at the same time. It's hard because you know what you're missing, and it's easy because it's, I don't think, very hard to find wonderful things to say about Berta Fine. It's no problem at all. And so I think the decision was to share extended Hespedim, not at the gravesite at 50 degrees, but here at 70 degrees, and make it a little more comfortable to hear, listen. And as I said earlier at the gravesite, listening was one of her greatest gifts and specialties. And I think for us to listen and to hear more about her and to do nechama for the family is what we should be doing now. So we're going to start off with Benjamin Dach, grandson, and then it will be sort of handed over person to person as they go along, and I won't come up here unless people get lost and don't know who to call up next, at which point I'll call someone at random, so you better hope it doesn't happen. Okay, so
Maybe each person could introduce themselves and have a relationship to my mom.
Okay, a good suggestion. Each person who comes up, please introduce yourself and talk about what the relationship is technically with Berta Fine, and then continue on about what it is more deeply emotionally. So Benjamin, where are you? Oh, there you are, right in front of me.
Hello, I'm Benjamin Dach, son of Judy Dach, and Jeffery Dach. Judy's one of Bubbie's daughters, so I'm Bubbie's grandson. I'm so grateful that I was able to be with Bubbie these last few years, moving back to Florida about 3 years ago with my family from the north, from New Jersey. And I wanted to say that I asked my kids as well to share what they experienced from Bubbie, and they both said something outstanding. They said that Bubbie always put other people first. She would always ask, "Are you comfortable? Can I get you a glass of water? Can I get you anything to eat?" She would always care about how other people were doing, putting other people first. So I thought that was very important to share. I was so grateful to just be in her presence, and I'll just end by saying that I intend to live my life the way Bubbie lived her life. And I think that would be the best thing for her to shep nachas, which is with grace, with internal happiness, and with just deep love. Bubbie, my love, we all love you, and you'll forever be in our hearts.
My name's Jeff Dach. In 1979, I married one of Bubbie Berta's daughters, Judith, over here in the turquoise top. And I remember when I first met Judy, we were still dating, we hadn't been married yet. She invited me to the house to meet her mom. And I thought, this is really a remarkable person for all the reasons that Benjamin mentioned. And so we were married in 1979. Bubbie Berta, who is Bubbie Berta? She was from a family that escaped persecution in Europe, Jewish persecution, and ended up in Chile, little town south of Santiago, where she was born. She, at the age of 3, her mother died. She had a rheumatic heart disease, and at the age of 13, her father died of lymphoma. As Sharon mentioned, they traveled through the Panama Canal to come to America looking for treatment at the Mayo Clinic for her dad. So she had a lot of hardships in life. She then was accepted into the household of Uncle Dave, of her Uncle Dave, who, along with Rosalie, the two of them were like sisters in Uncle Dave's house, and she grew up, and eventually she was married to her husband Irving, and had 4 daughters. She always wanted a son, according to Judy. She told me this. So Judy tells me that she looked at me as sort of like the son she never had. And I suppose that's true. And in roughly 1983 or so, we had become established in South Florida, and we had an opportunity to buy a condominium, 2-bedroom condominium. And so we did that, thinking, well, maybe this would be a good place for Bubbie Berta to move to, because she was living in Chicago at the time. And so we called her up and said, Bubbie Berta, we have this apartment in 5 minutes from our house, and it has a nice view of the golf course. There's a pool, it's in South Florida. And she said, no, I have all my friends here. I couldn't even think of moving there. So I said, Bubbie Berta, the apartment is there for you, and if you decide to change your mind, it's there for you. I guess it was about a year later, Judy. 2 years? It was what?
89.
It was 1989? So was it 2 or 3 years later? It was, later. We got a phone call. She decided to take us up on it, and she moved to South Florida, about 5 minutes away from us. And she is an incredible person. She's an incredible asset. To give you some idea, every time one of her grandchildren had a baby, she would go and spend a couple of months with the family taking care of the baby. I made a joke about it. The joke that I used to say was, they handcuffed her to the crib to keep her there. And but she loved babies. She loved taking care of babies. She loved the family. She loved her grandchildren, and that was one of her favorite things to do. So, who was Bubbie Berta? About a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting with her in the living room, and the remarkable thing about, she, at this stage, she's 98, she has dementia, so which means the short-term memory doesn't really work. So she would ask the same question over and over again. Even if you gave her an answer, she would ask, she would forget the answer and ask the question again. I guess you're familiar with that, which is, typical for dementia. And plus she had, at that stage, she had pretty bad macular degeneration with very little vision. But in spite of all that, she had the ability to share the moment with another person, which to me was remarkable. And this was I think Rabbi Marvin Simkovich touched on this when he said that she had the ability to listen to people. And I would define it more in terms of authenticity. We're running around, this is the high-tech 2025 year, and everybody has their cell phone. We're constantly checking our email. We're constantly checking a million messages. We're on our computers all day, and we're constantly bombarded with electronic media. We don't have time for other people. We have lost that skill, that skill to be present with another person has been lost in our culture for the most part. That was Bubbie Berta's strong point. She had that skill developed to a very high degree, and it was extremely strong. She was there, and that's an incredible, it's difficult to put into words, it's difficult to describe it. But who was she really? I consider myself fortunate, my family is fortunate that she lived around the corner from us for 45 years. And we would, she loved Shabbos. We would spend every Shabbos over there for lunch. I remember we would be walking through the little park to get to her apartment. And at that time, my daughter had a dog. The dog, the thing about dogs is a funny thing. They express their emotions without, they don't really hide anything. If the dog is happy, you're gonna know the dog is happy. This dog was ecstatically happy on the way to Bubbie's house every single time. Even Esther remembers that. And Bubbie Berta loved that dog. There was a big juicy bone waiting for that dog. The dog knew it, and we loved her. Who was Bubbie Berta? That is the question. As a number of her daughters mentioned, she, and this is what I think they were trying to say. We say the blessing on over the children. May the light of Hashem shine upon you, and may Hashem give you grace. That is what she had. She had grace.
My Bubbie loved to connect with people. She put in the time and energy to build meaningful relationships with each of us. Relationships that are special and unique. No one ever tells me. She made time to connect over the phone. She traveled all over to connect in person. Anything to build and maintain our connection. Anything to become closer. She valued the closeness. In 2009, I went to Miami to see Fish perform the 4 nights leading up to New Year's Eve. I called Bubbie with such excitement. I'm coming to Florida. Can I come for Shabbat? Can I bring my new boyfriend? Of course, she felt my excitement and enthusiasm, and it filled her with joy. I always felt welcome. I never felt judged. She made me feel comfortable to just be me. That is how our relationship flourished. Since 2009, I've spent every New Year's Eve at Madison Square Garden. Every year, at the end of the 4-day stretch, I always called my Bubbie. I called to wish her a happy birthday, to tell her about my adventures, my friends, the music, the dancing, and we would laugh. My Bubbie had the best laugh. Bubbie became part of my New Year's Eve story. Every year, I got to brag about my Bubbie to all of Madison Square Garden. How she came from Chile to Chicago, how she was orphaned so young, and then built the family she always wanted. From an orphan to a matriarch. This year will be different. I will not have a birthday call to make on New Year's Day, but I can still brag on New Year's Eve.
That is my sister, Shlomi.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I did not follow the rules. I did not introduce. I'm Esther's daughter and granddaughter.
Thank you for coming. It means so much to me to see so many of you here. The weekend that I graduated from college, my Bubbie and my mom and my sisters all came for the Shabbat beforehand, and we all had a big Shabbat dinner with other friends and family. One of my best friends, Avi, saw an empty seat by Bubbie, and so he sat down. Now, I had spent 4 years telling everyone about my amazing, strong Chilean Bubbie, who had to immigrate to America, and it seems that there was a miscommunication, because after chatting with Bubbie for a while, Avi, in his unfailingly polite way, said, "Your English is wonderful, Mrs. Fine." And Bubbie clearly was confused and unsure of what to do. And so she did what Bubbie did. She smiled a very warm smile, and she laughed a delighted laugh, and she said, "Why, thank you." And I tell this story not only because it is funny, but because it shows how Bubbie showed up at every single one of my milestone events for the first 35 years of my life. Bat mitzvah, graduations, wedding. She came and took care of me and Ariella when Ariella was born. She came to David's bris, to Meira's first birthday. She came to each and every one of my new apartments and new houses, bringing gifts and love. And I could always turn to her even when she was not there for complete unwavering support, for love, and for wisdom. I remember a few years ago telling my Bubbie with a lump in my throat that we were moving to Ann Arbor. I didn't want to leave Dove and Jeannie and the kids and my beautiful community in Philadelphia. I just wanted to stay. And she said to me, "You can do anything hard for a short time. It's not forever." And I hadn't even been sure why I told Bubbie because she was already a little bit confused. But even when she wasn't sure where she was, she knew the right advice to give. She didn't tell me it would be fine, as so many people did, because she seemed to understand I was sure it would not be. and she didn't throw me a poor Yael pity party, but she reassured me that I was strong enough to do anything for a short while, and that it wouldn't be forever. Bubbie, I realized, probably followed that advice for a lot of her own life. Things were not always easy, and yet it never felt like she was just plodding through getting to the next step. She did the hard things, but she did them with smiles and love, and she found the joy and the love that surrounded her. I remember her once telling me that as a young wife, she wanted to have dozens of children. She was lonely as a young child in America, and she wanted to fill her home. This past week has been so hard, but I have to say that seeing her 4 daughters, her son-in-law, her 12 grandchildren, and her 27 great-grandchildren, who came to be by her bedside physically or over the phone, I was so glad that Bubbie was not alone, that her hard things were not forever, but that the love that we feel for Bubbie and the way that we will continue to bring her legacy into this world is.
I'm Aryeh Haselkorn. I'm far as I know, Bubbie's oldest grandchild. I never knew either of my grandfathers, and my father's mother was fairly distant in New York. Occasionally she would visit us. She was elderly, not much of a relationship. So growing up, I always thought, really, I had one grandparent with whom I had a relationship. But boy, did she make up for all four. You've heard a lot from everyone about how amazing she was and her many character traits, so I won't belabor them, just a few stories, and we'll pass the torch to the next person. Being the oldest grandchild had certain privileges. You get to do things first with your grandmother. I got to visit her in Florida. We took a day cruise to the Bahamas. Bubbie was always up for just about anything. You'll hear more about that from my sister in a little bit. Bubbie loved to gamble. She taught us how to play poker, how to play blackjack. She had her own chips back when artisanship was really a thing.
They were my father's and dad's chips.
Yes, but they were hers when we met her. Beautiful, spinning, wooden container, leather cover. And so on the cruise ship was a casino. The Native American casinos were not such a thing. And we went to the casino. And they said, how old is he? And she told them. And they said, well, he can't come in. And she said, okay, and handed me a few dollars, sent me to the arcade on another deck, and said, Bubbie will be back in a little bit. And went to the casino. When I was in Israel for the year after high school, she came to visit. We flew to Eilat together, went to the Princess Hotel, went hiking, went to the aquarium. Anything you wanted, she would take you. And not with every grandparent can you go away as a grandchild by yourself for days and it not be awkward. As wonderful as grandparents are, some relationships are, you love them because they're your grandparent, but it's not always so simple or so in-depth. You could go away with Bubbie for days and talk about anything and everything, and it was a pleasure. I had the privilege, a little bit later in life, to take a trip back to Chicago with Bubbie. She loved Chicago, as I'm sure you've heard many times. She always wanted to come back whenever she could. I'm very bad with timelines, but it was probably somewhere between 2005 and 2010, somewhere in there, I think. We went to the cemetery to see Zadie's kever. We went to the Art Institute because she loved the Art Institute, and it is amazing, to be fair. We went to see some of her old friends who lived here, which was a little bit surreal for me, and I'm sure for her, in that I think she knew it was probably the last time she would see many of them alive. Phone calls, okay, we didn't have so much video conferencing then. And that was difficult to walk out of the nursing home with her and listen to her talk about that and how that felt. Uncle Jeff mentioned that she would come and take care of great-grandchildren. Again, I'm the oldest, so I feel like we started that. My wife and I had twins. One's on the phone, the other's on the Zoom. They're in Eretz Yisrael for their second year at the moment. And the baby nurse was about to leave, and we had twins who were a few weeks old, and panic might be strong, but not too strong. And Bubbie said, well, I'll come. And she came. She was 78, 79, and she came. And we said, well, how's this gonna work? And she said, well, what did the baby nurse do? And we said, well, you know, we had a bed in their room, they were sharing a crib, she slept there, she said, okay, so I'll sleep there, whatever she did, I'll do. And she did. And she bathed them, and she changed them, and she was with us for months. And we got to sit with Bubbie for breakfast in the morning, quintessential Bubbie experience, a little bit of, we'll say crispy toast, a little bit of jelly, a little bit of cottage cheese, a little bit of butter, all arranged on a plate, and a cup of coffee every morning without fail. I guess boy's bar mitzvah, maybe, was the last time, really. We had her in New Jersey. An amazing weekend. I mean, we had the whole family, but to have her there was very special. And the last time we really saw her, I guess, was Pesach in Boston a few years ago. Already a little bit confused, but still a pleasure and still able to tell us about, as Radical Jeff said, the short-term memory, but the long-term memory was still pretty solid and was able to tell us stories from her childhood in Chile. I have watched her make her potato kugel. I have made it with her, and I still can't duplicate it on my own. So unless one of you can help me, that may just be gone from the world. I don't know. I hope, but I don't know. Our kids commented on the same themes you've heard over and over: her incredible warmth, generosity, grace, the potato kugel, and those chocolate chip cookies, the oats and the cinnamon and the vanilla. Oh my God. Not good when you can't eat sugar. I'll just close with two things. Number one, my sister brought it up, I guess early this morning. We just passed my father's second yahrzeit. He and Bubbie had a wonderful, warm, loving relationship. Were he here, he would have much to say. But for me, I think the most marked thing, he called her mom, and the depth of love and respect that was in that mom when he said it made a huge impression when I was growing up. And the last thing is, I would just like to publicly express my tremendous appreciation for my mother and her sisters, for the care that they took of Bubbie for all these years, modeling for us the way to work through the very challenging circumstances of, as a family, caring for an aging parent, particularly when you have four amazing, strong-willed, opinionated, passionate, loving sisters who are all different and all incredible. In some ways, Bubbie's greatest legacy. And in particular, to thank Aunt Judy and Uncle Jeff and all of the Florida family for the years and years of heart and soul and time and effort and every other resource imaginable that they poured into Bubbie's care and giving her the greatest quality of life possible from when they moved her lovingly down to Florida until this past Shabbos. Thank you, thank you, thank you. May her memory and legacy be a blessing for all of us, a North Star as we continue to live our lives. Tehi nishmata tzura b'tzura chayim.
I'm Riva Haselkorn London, Sharon's youngest. Bubbie, abuelita, as I called her, was truly a force, a model of resilience, quiet fortitude, adapting to the world and her world as it changed around her. Her early life in Chile that has been mentioned really captivated me from early on and inspired me to learn Spanish and to move to Chile and meet our distant relatives, even seeking out her birthplace in Mulchen and going to the Registro Civil, like the city hall, to find the record of her birth in a Casa Sin Número, a house with no number on Anibal Pinto Street, and to get her an official copy of the record of her birth, which I think she said she had never seen before. So it was an amazing experience for both of us. She was always open to new technology, especially any way to connect with her grandkids and her great-grandkids. I remember like G-chatting with her in Spanish, and even as it got harder for her, calling her up on the phone and getting her to plug in the portal and calling on the portal and answering and then hanging up. And so she could really maintain those connections, which I especially appreciated with my little kids when they couldn't talk to her or anything, that she could at least see them and they could see her. But even with all of those advances, I think really her preference was for like a real, honest to goodness snail mail letter. And getting a letter from Bubbie was a real treat growing up, particularly because her handwriting was incredibly difficult to decipher. And I remember really feeling a sense of like true accomplishment when I no longer needed my mom's help to read her letters, and I could read them on my own, whether in English or in Spanish. So that was pretty special. I remember also that she didn't really like to pick out gifts for us in advance. Her preference would be when she came to visit, we would go on a trip to the mall and pick something out. And the experience and the joy that she got from seeing us pick out our gifts was a piece of the joy and the experience for her, and it added a whole new level to the gift itself. There are so many, right, with 98 years, even though I was only there for about half of that, there's so many memories, but I think maybe the biggest gift that we shared together was when I had been traveling in South America. I said to her one day that I went to Machu Picchu with friends of mine, and she said, I always wanted to go there. And I said, Bubbie, you're 80 years old. If there's something that you've always wanted to do, like now is the time to do it. And so I pushed and I prodded a little bit, and we planned a trip together, and we spent about 2 weeks in Peru traveling around, just the two of us. She was 82 years old, and in Cusco, there was a high altitude and it was challenging, but she just kept a thermos of coca leaf tea with her that was recommended from the hotel and just kept sipping on that. And I remember spending Shabbat with Chabad in Cusco, and it's all these 20-year-old Israeli backpackers and me and Bubbie, and she was a huge hit both in Hebrew and in Spanish and in English. And it really was just a very special trip for us, and taking the train up to the ruins, and she was just, she was up for it, right? Like she said yes. She really embraced, she just really embraced all of those opportunities in life. So I will leave her today with our what became our routine Chilean goodbye. Besitos, abuelita, ciao, ciao.
I'm Livia. I'm the oldest granddaughter.
I'm just the grandson.
A little louder. Much louder.
Louder Israelis.
Never heard that. I think for me, one of a memorable memory for her was when I tried finding ways to occupy her when she came for one of her visits to Israel, and she said you don't need to do that. I'm just here to be here with you and see how you live. And I think that's what also allowed her to welcome my wife when she came, and just other people too, just to be there and find a way to connect with them. So I mean, it could be with setting flowers with my wife for their wedding. It could be with being a syndicate for my son, even though I'm not sure she fully felt comfortable with that. Or playing sock, which was just a game of throwing socks with my son. She'd just find a way to connect with anyone, no matter what was their approach and how would they be different from others. And that just helped everyone feel comfortable with her. And I'll miss that.
last week when I went to see her, I started having all these flash memories of moments with her. And I realized that that my brothers and my mom and my dad and all my cousins are all probably having the same experience. Like, obviously we all have our own memories, but we're all having these little memories that are creeping up on us. And I thought that was like a remarkable thing, that she has 12 grandchildren, and I think none of us would say, oh, I didn't really know Bubbie, or I didn't have much of a relationship with her. Like, she was able to have a personal, intense relationship and meet us each where we're at, for each and one of us. And, in what I do, at work, we talk a lot about emotions and what's the purpose of emotions. And one of the things patients ask often is, like, if someone dies and you feel sad, what's the point of that, right? Because you can't do anything about it. You can't change anything. And I think that one of the things that we try to talk about is that the sadness helps you understand what was important to you about the relationship. And if I didn't let myself feel the sadness, I wouldn't be able to recognize that. And sometimes with my children, I notice I'm on my phone, I'm worried about work, I'm worried about other things, and it's hard to be present with them. And that's something that Bubbie was able to do. She was able to be present with each of us. And so I think I'm gonna try to use my sadness to take that with me and to keep her with me that way and be more present.
Midrash is the art of adding the words that are left between the beautiful words that are already there and that still remain to be said. During this week to come, while you're sitting Shiva, some of those words will come. And you'll find out even things you did not know, even though you know so much. And this is what reaches into our hearts forever. Right now, we're coming to a conclusion here. I'd like to ask everybody to join us for a mincha service quickly, so we could say one last Kaddish together. And then after that, we'll have some more time to sit Shiva with the family. So right now, for the mincha, men over there, women over here.